Hi friends, this is Lindsay Cross, Government Relations Director with Florida Conservation Voters. I hope that you are all doing well and are healthy today. It is such a privilege for me to take you along on an exploration through one of my favorite places in Florida, and certainly my favorite place in my home county of Pinellas County. So I'm coming to you live from the Weedon Island Preserve, which is in northeastern St. Petersburg in Pinellas County. I'm going to show you just a little bit of where I am right now, and then I'm going to flip the camera around so you can experience all the things that I'm experiencing right now. But I wanted to point out this native Cherokee bean plant right here, which is kind of a special find along the walk. So we're going to start on one of the trails within the Weedon Island Preserve. This is about a 3,200 acre preserve. So the second largest preserve in Pinellas County, the largest one being Brooker Creek up in the northern part of Pinellas County. But Weedon Island is a really special place. It was protected in around 1974 by the state government, and ownership is now with the Pinellas County, which has been managing it since about 1993. All right, let's flip around and start looking at some of the sites that I'm seeing. All right, so we're on just kind of a sandy trail right now within the preserve. Again, it's about 3,200 acres. About 1,100 acres of that is upland areas, which includes some of the scrubby hammocks with some oak trees. We'll see some pine trees as we go along. So this is a portion of the preserve, but there's also a large component that's aquatic. And as we go further on our journey, we'll get to go through some of the mangrove areas. And what's really cool about this area is that there are mangroves that are accessible by water and by land. So we'll talk a little bit about why we can walk through the mangroves on our feet, and we can also go through them in our canoe or our kayak. So Weedon Island is one of the places within Pinellas County that is still open to the public. And just so you know, I am following the social distancing guidelines. There's no one else hiking with me. I do have a mask with me, and we're encouraging everyone when they get outside for fresh air and exercise to make sure that you're following the guidelines within your local city and municipality. So again, this is in St. Petersburg, but it's owned and managed by Pinellas County. So we're starting to come up on a boardwalk, and we're on a portion of the trail that's called the Boy Scout Loop. This was a project from a Boy Scout from years ago that helped to create this trail, and so we are the lucky recipients of his hard work through one of his St. Pete Boy Scout troops. So this place has about 5 miles of hiking trails. My favorite places are where we are right now, these dirt trails that allow you to really connect with the earth. Could you see that? Tripped a little bit on a route. There's also boardwalks that go through the mangroves that give you kind of a higher view, not exactly a bird's eye view, but there is an observation tower where you can see all around the preserve and the aquatic area. So we're coming over a bridge, so we're starting to see some mangroves right here. The majority of the mangroves we're going to see are these red mangroves. You can see those large prop roots that look kind of like skeleton fingers. Those are in that salt water, and the mangroves are really special plants because they have the ability to live in salt water. It's not like they like it, but they can tolerate it. So we have 3 main mangrove species here in Tampa Bay. The ones that we just saw, and the majority of them that we'll see, are the red mangroves, which are, the scientific name is Rhizopora mangle. That's the only scientific name I'm going to throw at you because frankly, it's the only one that I know. I'm pretty good with the seagrasses, but there's only a few of those in Tampa Bay as well. So this place that we're walking has a lot of native wildlife. During my hikes and walks and runs back here, I frequently see armadillos. So I've set an intention for us to see one of those today because they're always so much fun. Also see snakes back here, so it's important that you walk carefully and are aware of your surroundings. Of course, this is a natural environment that is well maintained by the Pinellas County management. It's also typical to see gopher tortoises. This is a place that they love. They love those higher and drier and sandy soils. So in this part of the preserve right here, where we're kind of at the confluence of the dry and the wet places, we're not going to see as many of the gopher tortoises, but they are a sight that you'll see around the parking areas and around the roads. So that's why it's important when you're here to make sure you're looking around when you're getting into your car afterwards, looking underneath for snakes, for turtles, and for other critters. We'll also see some mischievous raccoons from time to time, lots of bird species as well. So you can see that over to the side, you can just kind of glimpse that there's some water over there. So this is how close we are to the water. And of course, we're on Tampa Bay right now. We're in a portion of Tampa Bay called Old Tampa Bay. So the Tampa Bay is about 400 square miles at high tide. It's the largest open water estuary in the state of Florida. We have several other estuaries, but Tampa Bay is the largest open water one. And the watershed, so the area that drains into Tampa Bay, is about 4 times as large, and it encompasses portions of Pinellas, Hillsborough, Manatee, and even portions of Pasco County. So let's just pause here a little bit and just check out some of the sites. You may hear a little bit of traffic or some vehicles in the far distant. This area, we call it kind of a hidden gem here because it is nestled in Pinellas County, which is the second most densely populated county in the entire state. So it is so important to have places like this that are protected, not only for us to enjoy, but for those that are going to come after us. And for me, it has been just an absolute godsend. It's a place where I come to restore and to recharge. Growing up in more northern areas with lots of access to trail running, I was kind of at a loss when I moved to Pinellas County with all the pavement and the heat and the humidity. When I found Weedon Island as part of an adventure race, I felt like kind of my soul was coming home. And that's what some of these natural places do for us and why they're so important. So as I continue to walk along this path, I know that there's several of you, some friends that are watching. Feel free to send me a question. I'll do my best to answer it as we're walking through some of the cabbage palms. Again, we've got mangroves kind of flanking us, and we'll start to see some ferns over in the distance. And we'll see how long we go on this, but I want to take you to a couple of my favorite places along this hike. So let's just take a few minutes to breathe here, and I'll allow you guys maybe to even close your eyes. Well, then you can't see what it looks like. But just take a moment to take in the sights and the sounds. All right, as I come back to you, there was a question about whether this trail is open, and Rebecca, the answer is yes. Weedon Island, the preserve, and the upland and the kayak trails are open to the public right now. There is a large natural history and education center which has been closed, but you do have the ability to come out here and enjoy these places responsibly. So that's what we're doing right now, and for the people that don't have the chance to get out of their house right now, this is an opportunity to experience it virtually. What other questions can we answer right now? Drop my sunglasses. Here we come back. All right. Someone's having some internet issues. Well, I'm not connected to Wi-Fi right now, so hopefully we'll still be able to come back. We will have this available on our Facebook page, of course. So this place that we're going to enter right now, I think of this as kind of the Jurassic Park of Weedon Island. If you see the ferns that we're starting to approach, it just looks really different than anything else that I see around the county. And getting to explore so many places in wild Florida with the purpose of permanently protecting them always gets my mind going, because I think of these type of places that I enjoy. And then when I drive someplace down, you know, in a more urban area, maybe down Central Avenue in St. Petersburg, I think about what that place used to look like, because all the places where we live now were wild at one point. And I think that's what we need to remember, is that the places that are still wild, we need to protect. So we'll pause for a moment here. This is the Jurassic Park area that I like to think of. I know that there's some coyotes that den back in here. And we're going to turn around right now and go back to the main trail. I had some questions about a trail run, and I will get to that in just a couple minutes, but I did want to address the idea of wildlife here. Weedon Island is protected as a preserve rather than a park. That means that the intent of it is to protect it for wildlife and the natural environment. We are fortunate to be able to enjoy it as humans, but we're not number one here. So that means that dogs are not allowed out here. These trails are only available, hi guys, they're only available for walking and for hiking, not for biking, because that does cause more of an impact to these natural resources. So you may think, well, that's not fair. I'd really like to bring my dog out here. I get it. I just adopted a dog myself, but there's other places to take your pets. And the purpose of this preserve and Brooker Creek are really to protect the natural resources and the wildlife. Someone asked if I see a snake to get a close-up. I will do my best, Ari. You may cause me to be a little bit braver than I thought I was going to have to be today. All right, a couple friends had questions about a trail run. And yes, that's one of my favorite things to do, as I mentioned. And I have a very close relationship with the trail run that occurs the last Saturday in October every year. It's called the Gopher Weedon Trail Run. I had the pleasure of serving on the Friends of Weedon Island, which is a nonprofit organization that helps to support environmental education and restoration here at the preserve. And when I was the president, I wanted to find new ways to engage people in Weedon Island. As I mentioned, not everyone that lives here even knows this exists. So I wanted to encourage people to come out here and experience it with their friends and their family, to do it in a responsible way, and to be able to support some of the great education programs out here, like field trips for Title I schools that we're able to support through scholarships. So about 9 years ago, we may be coming up to the 10th anniversary, I pitched the idea of having a trail run out here. The board thought I was crazy, and we did it anyway, and it was a great success. The trail run has been going for 9 years now. Again, it's the last Saturday in October, and it's an 8-kilometer run, which means that it's just under 5 miles. So a little more than a 5K, but more accessible than a 10K. So the trail that we're running right now is part of the Weedon Island Trail Run. And then there's also portions that go through the mangroves along the boardwalk. And for those that haven't done it, I won't share the surprise, but it does include climbing to the top of a tower, which is high by Florida standards. But if you're from the Mountain West, that's just a tiny little hill. But that's has been a very popular event. It is sponsored by a lot of great local businesses. We have some of the best post-race food around, with catering from great restaurants like Noble Crust and the former Meze 119, which always brought us some great vegetarian food, and just an awesome community event. I know that some of you watching the video have been part of that run, or you've been volunteers. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Those type of things don't happen without a lot of community support. All right, as we start to come across another little stream crossing, again, we'll pause and I'll let you guys take in the environment and maybe think of a question to ask me. So how is everyone doing right now? Send me a little wave or a thumbs up. Let me know you're still with me. You're not too dizzy. All right. Any birds? Carol, there are birds out here. I'm not sure if we're going to see any today, but we would typically see osprey out here because we're so close to Tampa Bay. Always lots of osprey. We see bald eagles. Marcia asked if the paddle trails are still open, and the answer is yes to that as well. So if you're coming out with your family members and you're keeping the appropriate social distance guidelines in St. Pete, I know it's 6 feet. Hopefully this video does not encourage a mad rush out here, but there still are the opportunities. The paddle and the hiking trails are open for now. The county does have updates on its website. So as we start to go through some of this Pine Flatwoods area, again, you can see the differences in the landscape. And we've only been walking for maybe half a mile. Again, there's about 5 miles of trails. About half of them are these natural trails. And then a couple miles of those are boardwalk, and then there's also some paved trails which are accessible to all ability levels. The boardwalk trails are as well. So it's getting a little sunny here today. We are fortunate that our weather has been so excellent. I'm going to try and pick up the pace a little bit so we can get to some of the mangrove areas. I see some leather fern over here to the left, and that's something we see a lot around river systems, but river systems that are getting closer to a saltwater source. So in the lower reaches of rivers like the Hillsborough River or the Little Manatee River, you'll start to see some of the leather fern, when you get closer, when the water gets a little bit saltier. All right, Rebecca had a great suggestion to join the Friends of Weedon Island, and I think that is a great idea. Local nonprofits, some of them are struggling right now because everyone's world has been turned upside down with this pandemic, but certainly if you have the ability to support your local nonprofits, I would encourage you to. I know that for groups like the Friends of Weedon Island, the money goes back into providing education, providing restoration, and the membership, I believe, is only $15 for an individual. So it's less than the cost of a pizza. It looks like someone asked about a prescribed burning schedule. So yes, prescribed burning is something that is done here. There is a management plan for Weedon Island that's developed with Pinellas County and it's overseen. It's also reviewed by other partners to make sure that it's consistent with the type of fire schedule that's needed. I don't know how frequently they burn. With most areas, they're sectioned off into different burn zones. We're going to take a turn over to Lookout Point. So you would be burning sections at a time, and for native habitats, a lot of them in Florida, they rely on fire. It's part of their regeneration, and it has occurred naturally over centuries and over millennia. So usually started by lightning or by Native Americans, because they understood the importance of it as well. So here at Weedon Island, they do burn areas, and if we see any evidence of it, I will certainly pause and we'll take a look. So as we are coming to Lookout Point, we're going to go to the end of Lookout Point and then end our visit here. But we're getting back into the mangrove areas again. You can start to see some of the standing water. And I want to talk about how this area was created. Over here again, you're starting to see some of these red mangroves, those big prop roots. And this area used to be all low-lying coastal wetland areas, primarily mangroves, but there was also salt marsh and salt terns, or also called salt barrens, which are a little bit higher and drier. They look kind of like a moonscape and have some short, really salt-tolerant plants. Those are areas that are only wet a couple times a year on a really high tide, and then those areas, the water will drain off and it will leave that really salty soil. And what's interesting is the water will start to recede as the tide goes out, but sometimes fish get caught up in there, and so it becomes like this big buffet for birds to come and feed. So they know when it's time to go out to the salt barrens to get a delicious meal of fish. So the coastal wetland areas were very expansive along Tampa Bay and through many parts of Florida. We started to settle places like Pinellas County in the Tampa Bay area earlier than some parts of Florida, and we already had some population centers in the early 20th century. Mosquitoes are an issue, as we know, so is the heat and the humidity. Of course, we started to get more people moving to Florida with the advent of air conditioning. We all appreciate that. But as a way to try and cut down on the mosquito population, some people thought it would be a brilliant idea to slice through the mangroves and get salt water to come up into these coastal areas. And the thinking behind that was that the salt water would kill the mosquito larvae and you'd have less mosquitoes. Well, that was a big effort that was undertaken by groups like the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers around the 1950s. Well, we still have mosquitoes. We have other ways that we try to manage mosquitoes right now. But what happened is that it left a lasting legacy, and not in a good way. So by changing these areas, it changed the way water flows. So the reason why I'm walking in between these mangroves is because historically someone had come through, dredged material through the mangroves, and then tossed that dirt over to the side and created some mounds. So you would have these deeper channels that would allow water to flow in, and then some material on the side. What ended up happening is that when we got invasive species, things like Brazilian pepper, those types of plants would colonize on those higher areas, those mounds, and start to take over, that start to outcompete some of the mangroves. So they were changing a little bit about the habitat dynamics here. So we do have the benefit of walking through these mangroves right now because of some past changes to the landscape, but it's not something that we want to see all over the place. So there have been active restoration efforts by county governments, by scientists throughout the Tampa Bay region and around the state to restore these places. So you would actually be filling some of these areas back in with the material that was cast aside decades ago. So that's a significant effort that scientists and ecologists have been undertaking, and we literally could spend millions and millions and millions of dollars every year just restoring some of the damage that we have caused in the past. And that's why things that happen, development and changes to our natural area, why it's so important that we are very conscious about the effects that we're going to have. Roads and developments, there are impacts that you can't always see right off the bat, but that can have lasting impacts and may be very costly and difficult to fix in the future. So I'll pause and you'll start to see maybe in the background that there's a little bit of sky and some more of the water. And if this was a little bit deeper, you may be able to bring a kayak back in there, but the kayak and the canoe trails, which are about 4 miles in length, those are the remnants of the mosquito ditching from the 1950s as well. So we are fortunate to have those, and those do need to be maintained as well. I've taken a group of volunteers out with some folks from Pinellas County and gotten to a down tree within the kayak route, and my buddy Pam pulled out what was only a little bit bigger than a pocket knife and literally sawed the thing in half so that we could continue on our journey. That is how hard the people to keep this place so that it's healthy and that it's accessible to all of Pinellas County and visitors who come to our region. So we've got about 3 more minutes, I would say, when we get to the end of Lookout Point, and hopefully the tides will be such that we can walk out and see a little bit of view of Tampa Bay. In the morning, if you come out here within these mangrove areas, you'll see so many birds, lots of egrets, ibis, herons. Crisis. We have a continued need to conserve land and water. We have a goal of shifting towards renewable energy and doing it in a just and equitable fashion. And it's critical that we preserve opportunities for democracy. So those are some of our core areas within Florida Conservation Voters. We will continue to work on all of those issues and advocate for the health and safety of our environment and our community members. All right, friends, we're getting to the end of our journey. As you can see, the tide it's a pretty high tide right now, and off in the distance is beautiful Tampa Bay. Thank you so much for joining me in this outdoor exploration at Weedon Island Preserve in Pinellas County. Thank you for your great questions, for being engaged in the conservation voter movement. Stay healthy, stay well, take care of each other from a responsible social distance, and we'll continue to fight for the Florida that we love. Thank you all.